Hi everyone, this is Jim Tolles, and I wanted to talk about spiritual awakening and romantic affairs. This is one of these questions I get every now and then, or observations, or I get a spouse talking about somebody who's an awakening and they're trying to understand what's going on because the relationship's falling apart. And it really, I can't emphasize this enough that it's not okay to go from one out of integrity relationship into another where you're out of integrity. What happens for a lot of people, because they don't understand love, and oftentimes they run into a soulmate, a twin flame, or just a deep soulful connection. There's all types of soulful connections, by the way, not just soulmates and twin flames. It's like such a narrow view of life, and it's a narrow idea of what love is. And so there's a lot of real big problems that people have with love, quite frankly. And even if you're in a bad relationship, or whatever's going on, to awaken, fall in love with this other person, but not to honorably step out of the current relationship you're in, is going to perpetuate karma, and it's going to perpetuate pain, and it doesn't make you, better or something to have an awakening. There are real consequences to that, and there's all sorts of levels of this where you can be out of integrity and stepping out of a relationship. Uh, Obviously, with things that are physically abusive and emotionally abusive, you step out of that, but you don't just kind of run out of it into the next arms of somebody else, because usually people haven't learned all of their lessons. And so what they're going to do, especially with a soulmate, is they tend to find a whole bunch of their other lessons. It can be very volatile energy, and it's a way that lots of people choose to hide. Lots of people are hiding in relationships, so they kind of hide in this one, and then the next best thing shows up, and they go do that, and they label it as spiritual or as a soulmate or something like that. And so once again, they're not really understanding what they are seeking. I really don't encourage people to use the term beloved for their partners. The beloved, in the terms that Rumi is always talking about, which is usually where this is coming from, and it's one of the new popular terms people are using for romantic partnership. But the beloved is you. It's you coming in connection to you. The lover and the beloved are one, means they're all inside you. Doesn't have to do with getting into a really deep soulful connection with somebody else. But when you project your love like this, you're actually kind of getting in the way of your awakened shift. That awakened shift says that everything is one, that I am one. And it doesn't really place preferences on a specific type of romantic relationship that you have to have. The more you're in the space, the more it's patient and kind and deliberate. It doesn't have to run to the next relationship. If this other person is the right one for you, stepping out of the current thing will be gradual and natural. Or maybe not even gradual, but it'll be natural, and you can do it clearly and in integrity. It really comes down to two wrongs don't make a right. And I really question people who want to say they've awakened or something, and they're doing something so out of integrity. It's not that that doesn't happen for people who are awake. When you wake up, you still have lots of unconscious stuff that you have to work through. But more often than not, somebody had a spiritual revelation, and it was profound, or a big opening, and they realize that their current relationship isn't healthy, and they just kind of want to jump to the next thing. And it really is part of the self-improvement path. I want to make things better and better so that life is just constantly love and roses for me, and it's just not that way. One spiritual teacher who comes to mind is Nanda, and like by the end of his life, I believe he had like horrible arthritis or something like that. It was very debilitating, and it was very painful for him to even move. For such a profound healer to be suffering from that, people are like, well, what's going on? It's like, well, that's just a soul path. And that was part of what he was here to experience. And a teacher like that knows that and understands that. And so this is the depth of wisdom that we start to have for our paths, that, pain and pleasure are both accepted. Being in a difficult relationship and transitioning out of it, if this is appropriate for you, will probably bring up lots of pain, but this is where, in the awakened space, we learn to be with it, to be present, because we're releasing more of the inner hooks that kept us there, that kept us wanting something from this other person. The more you can step into a new relationship in a healthy way, which is to want nothing from them. Which completely screws with a lot of people's ideas about relationships, because we're so externally focused. We think we're trying to get something from them. It really is this grabbing hand, right? this doesn't feel good to any of us. And usually the person who's grabbing the hardest and the other person kind of always wants to shrink back. And people get very confused. It's like, you know, I guess this is just how love is. It just always feels like somebody's trying to rip my heart out. And that's not love. So this is just another place where you have to look at your bigger stories about what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to get, and why you're trying to get it. There are big social stories that are built into us culturally that say that we should have a romantic partnership. And you have to start to look at those things and how they keep trying to run in the background even after, you know, a true awakening. They'll still keep trying to run in the background. Just most of you start to notice it more and more. And for those of you in the awakening who are listening to me, like, it's probably pretty easy for you to start to see that to certain degrees. And of course we go through levels of seeing inside ourselves as we peel away these old layers, these old programs that do not serve us. So really my big takeaway is moving from one out of integrity thing into another thing that's out of integrity really isn't in your highest good. It's not really your highest truth. You have to look at these things. What is saying that you want or have to need something else? What is saying that you don't have all of life within you? Because that's the truth of the awakened space, is all oneness. The beloved and the lover are one. All of it's inside you. And so from this space you can move with integrity to let people go honorably and honestly, and to move into the next thing and embrace those next set of lessons, you know, with no expectation that things are going to last any longer than they need to. Once again, my name is Jim Tools, and you can find more of my talk about relationships. There's one about developing conscious relationships in my blog right now, and that's at spiritualawakeningprocess.com. Have a beautiful day.